Howdy shipmates, it's Captain Dan here. Welcome to Story Time with Captain Dan. A time to tell tales and share stories, old and new with young and old. A time to lift our spirits during this time of the coronavirus. How are we all doing? Now I like to tell lots of tales and I like to shout out to my friends, so please send any requests in or any shout outs to people that you would like a story dedicated to. And I'm going to share a little tale with you today which I don't know very well, and it's called Platypus by Chris Riddell. So this is the story of Platypus. Look at him there, he's out on the beach. I like building sandcastles, do you? What a great day for collecting, said Platypus. He opened his special box and took out his collection of favourite things. Not bad, he said, but I need something else. Platypus picked up his bucket and spade and his picnic lunch. He set off for his favourite collecting place. He didn't know what else he needed, but he was sure he'd know when he saw it. I'm a bit like that when I go shopping, actually. Platypus found some seaweed. Too slimy. He found a rock. Too big, he said. He found an old shoe. Very tempting, he said, but I've got one already, he said. Platypus found lots of interesting things, but none of them were quite right. I wonder what time it is, he thought. He looked in his bucket. Lunchtime. After lunch, Platypus built a sand castle. Not bad, he said. I can take it home for my collection. But he couldn't. He picked up his bucket and a large curly shell fell out onto his toe. Perfect, said Platypus. Just what I was looking for. That is what was missing from my collection, he said happily. Something to remind me of the sea. Platypus took the curly shell home and put it in his special box. All that collecting has made me sleepy, he said. Time for bed. The next morning, when Platypus looked in his special box, the large curly shell had gone. He couldn't see it anywhere. That's very strange, he said. Platypus searched everywhere for his shell, but all he found was an old sandwich and a tickling stick and another old shoe. See, he knew he already had one. Didn't need another one, unless he wanted a pair. He looked everywhere, but no shell. Oh dear, said Platypus. I will have to find another shell for my collection. And he set off to the beach again. On the way, Platypus saw something that looked familiar. That looks like my curly shell, he said. It is my curly shell. How did it get here? So he picked up the shell and he ran all the way home. The next day, the curly shell had disappeared again. Platypus looked inside, but it wasn't there. And he looked outside, and it wasn't there either. Said Platypus, scratching his head. He went to his favourite thinking place and he cooled his feet. You know, he could never think when his feet were hot. It is hard to think, you know, when your feet are hot. Best to cool them. Ouch! He cried, leaping up. Something had pinched him on his toe. It was a hermit crab inside his curly shell. Oh, said Platypus to the little crab. Oh, I'm sorry. If I'd known the shell was your home, I'd never have collected it. Platypus took the curly shell even back to the sea in his bucket. And the hermit crab scuttled off. I'm sounding like Mr. Topsy-Turvy there, aren't I? That was from the other day. Platypus found a beautiful speckled shell in the sand and he looked inside. It was very dark in there. Hello, is anyone at home? He said, and there was no answer. He held the shell to his ear and he could hear the sea. Perfect, said Platypus. Perfect, said he. So that's the story of Platypus by Chris Riddell. But that's the end of story time for today with Captain Dan. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to wish you all a good night. In my usual manner, keep sending in the ideas and stories and shout outs to lift our spirits high up into the sky. But now I'm going to wish you all a good night. So good night, good night. Oh sweet repose. Don't lie on your belly, 'cause you might squash your nose. Good night.